We are live right now. That's how it goes. All right, what's going on? How's everyone today? Happy Friday. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about work ethic and how to develop a pretty sickening work ethic. And the reason we're going to be talking about this and the reason I want to talk about this is something that has been an issue for me. I don't think that I would consider myself too disciplined of a guy. I've pretty much been going to the gym for 10 years and never really fell off that. But like in terms of diet, my diet's kind of shit, if we're being honest. And in terms of work ethic, I know like fuck, I feel like I wasted pretty much my entire half of my 20s just fucking around pretty much. And yeah, what I've realized recently, so I'm putting that out there as I'm going to talk a little bit about work ethic, how to develop a stronger work ethic, and just show you some things that work for me. But I'm by no means the hardest man in the game, and there's definitely stronger, more disciplined, more resilient people who you can learn hard work and work ethic from. But I have done some things, and I definitely have had periods where I'm working really, really hard and working really, really focused. So that's something, and I'm currently in that state, and I got in that state because one of my friends was able to motivate me out of a bit of a rut. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Pretty much is just getting stronger work ethic, working harder than someone else in order to compete. Pretty much. So that is the way that I've been essentially working hard for the last little while is using something called the Pomodoro technique. So this is a method of productivity that a lot of people use. So the baseline, the foundation of it is you would just set a timer for say 30 minutes. And then you would just work on that one thing that you have allotted for 30 minutes. And then you would just, when that timer goes off, you're chilling for 5 minutes and you relax. Or you do this for 45 minutes, you relax for 10 minutes or something like that. So the numbers don't really matter, but that's the base of it is you just work for a little bit and then you rest for a little bit. You work for a little bit, you rest for a little bit. And that is pretty much what I have been doing for the last couple years, to be honest, a couple years. So what I do, I don't have it on me, but I have this book that is it's called the Productivity Planner, and essentially it's you lay out all of the shit that you need to do every day, and then you pretty much just go after it in Pomodoros. And this thing says to do 25 minutes at a time, and then you relax for 5 minutes and you just chill. But one thing that I found recently after talking to my friend is a lot of this actually can come down to self-talk. So if you talk properly to yourself, and you're going to be a lot more productive. And the self-talk that I'm talking about isn't like you're the best, you're doing it, I'm so proud of you, da, da, da. It's nothing like that. It's literally catching yourself if you have any weak thought. And this is something that you'll hear from David Goggins, who absolutely need to listen to, as well as Sam Ovens. This is someone that on the business side has a sickening work ethic. But pretty much anytime they catch a weak thought, then they're like, okay, that's a weak thought, we need to destroy this. And this is what I've been doing the last little bit is when I'm at the gym, for example, I'll be working out, I'm like, oh, this is heavy today, I don't want to do this. And what I would do is I would simply, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is really heavy, but now every time I have that thought that, oh my God, this is heavy, and like example, yesterday I was doing a shoulder press, and I was like, fuck, like this set's tough, this set is tough. And so I was like, I can't do it. But then I caught that weak thought, and I was like, all right, now you have to do more. Now you have to do more. Or say you're like running out of time or something like that. You're like, okay, maybe I'll just like cut this shorter. It's like, no. If you're running out of time, you got to go faster. And pretty much what we have to be able to do is keep an eye on our thoughts, keep an eye on what it is that we are doing and what it is that we're thinking in our head. And as soon as you catch any type of weakness, you have to go to another level. So if you don't want to wake up, that's a weak thought. Then you have to wake up and you have to like, no snooze, no anything. It's just like, you're pretty much changing who you are as a person to be like, all right, no weakness allowed. And going from the self-talk where you're like, okay, I'm doing good. I did this Pomodoro. Good job. Now you deserve a break. Then I did this Pomodoro and now I deserve another break. What we're doing is we're pretty much just calling yourself weak. You're calling yourself a bitch. You're calling yourself a pussy. Anytime you have like this weak thought in your brain, then it's like, oh, I have to violently push that out. So exercise is just one that I'm going to keep coming back to because it's super simple. But one of them, for example, with work. Do you know how hard it is to just sit down and study, or do you know how hard it is to like sit down and do some work that you're not super interested in? All of that, doing stuff like that is very good practice for your entire life. So if you can actually sit down and focus on something for 2 hours without stopping, and every time you have like this thought in your brain, like, oh, I need to go check the laundry, I need to send this text message or something like that. If you can catch those thoughts and be like, no, this is complete garbage, we don't need to, like you have to be able to catch these thoughts and flush them out. And this is something that's been very beneficial for me recently. Is just, yeah, like anytime I have like a bad thought, every time I'm like, oh, like I don't want to do this anymore. What we're doing is we're trying to embrace suffering, just finding shit that is hard to do every single day and doing it to prove to yourself that you can do it. And then what's going to happen is if you do this hard shit day in, day out, day in, day out, you're going to win. And it's kind of inevitable that you can't win. So one of the things, for example, like say for this video I'm making right now, these live talks, like one of my things is speaking. One of the things I want to get better at is public speaking, because that's what I've been doing. I've been going to events. I've been doing speaking events for students. One of the things I'm doing here is I'm literally just doing this every week from now on, and there's no way I could do this for say 10 years and not get really good at just kind of going off the cuff and just making shit up off the top of my head, making it interesting, making it fun for you guys, and making it fun for people to watch, making it something that's entertaining. Because my job is not just to, like, I'm not like a teacher. I'm not gonna just like sit there and just drone on this stuff, like no one cares. No one really wants to just get information. No one gives a fuck about information. What people want to see is entertainment. And what I need to learn how to do is kind of be entertaining, be fun, be engaging, be someone that people want to listen to, and be someone that's worth listening to. And if you're not someone worth listening to, then you're not a leader. And we need to kind of always be leaders. And if you can control your mind, and there's a quote, I think it's, don't quote me on this, but Sun Tzu potentially says, one of these like wise philosophers says, control over others is strength, but mastery over yourself is true power. And this is something that we're learning to do with work ethic, with working hard, just getting better at recognizing what stupid thoughts you have and flushing them out. Any weakness that you can punish yourself on, that's going to be very beneficial for your life. There's no way you telling yourself that you are pretty much like you telling yourself that, hey, like I can just relax on the couch right now, like da, da, da. It's like, if you say that to yourself, you're not fooling anyone. You're not fooling yourself. You're not going to get better. So if you can go to the gym, if your country is open up for the gym right now, that's going to be a very beneficial one that you can just start working at. Just be like, all right, I don't feel like going to the gym today. Who really feels like going to the gym? But I'm sure all of us can also attest, like when you go to the gym, you come back out of it, you're like, okay, that was worth it. But what we need to start doing is just being more intense and more focused on what it is that we're doing. And what that's going to do is just remove all your distractions. And every time you have a thought that's like, okay, I've been going hard for a little bit now, I've been relaxing, I'm having I did good, or sorry, I've been trying hard, I've been going for a while, now I can chill. Just recognize that is a weak thought. And just every time you see that weak thought, it's like, okay, now I need to go further, So at the gym, if you're lifting a bunch of weight, you're like, all right, this is heavy. I don't know if I can do it. It's like, okay, now I have to prove to myself that I can do not only this, but more than this, And a lot of people complain about this stuff. It's like, oh, you're just going to injure yourself. You're going to weaken yourself. It's like, it's a marathon, not a sprint, blah, blah, blah. And that's true. But if we can catch ourselves when we're thinking these weak thoughts, and we can overcome them. And pretty much, if your brain knows that every time you have a weak thought, it's going to get destroyed. It's going to have to go further. If you wake up and you're running on the treadmill, you go to the gym, you're running on the treadmill, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go for, this is pretty tough today, I got shit to do, I'm going to run for 30 minutes. It's like, well, no, unfortunately you had that thought, so now you have to run for an hour. If you do that consistently over time, your brain is going to recognize that and be like, all right, no more weak thoughts, no more procrastinating, because you're pretty much making your brain afraid of your own punishment for it. So you're making yourself afraid of yourself. And if you're your own worst enemy, where you're like, okay, anytime I have any thought where I'm like, okay, I don't want I don't want to do this, but I know it's good for me, but I don't want to do it. And you make yourself go do that and go do it to a more extreme rate. That's going to change your physiology. That's going to change who you are as a person. And this is something that, yeah, like pretty much there are no shortcuts, and just power is effort over time. Power is effort over time. So one of the things is, like, if we just keep doing the right things over and over and over and over again, and realistically, it's kind of like an alcoholic, Alcoholics Anonymous. You go to that, there's just like, all right, just don't drink today. We're not saying we're gonna not drink forever. It's just we're not drinking today. And once you have that mindset of like, okay, there's just this 24-hour period, I need to not drink alcohol. That's it. But if you switch that and make it work ethic, it's like, all right, this 24-hour work period, or this 24-hour period, I need to work really hard. That's the new game plan, right? The new game plan is we just need to work for 24 straight hours. Just give it everything we have. We have a certain set of things that we need to do. Obviously, we need to have a plan. But if you just think of it day by day, you just win one day, then you win the next day, then you win the next day, and you just win and do the right things that are going to get you somewhere over and over, then that's how we're going to win. And it's just going to be over time, effort over time. So you're not really going to see too much of a change overall from a day-to-day perspective. But if you keep at it, if you keep trying this, if you keep working at it, if you keep working at whatever it is that you're going to do, it's literally inevitable that you are going to succeed. So if you just show up to the gym every single day, if you just win your diet every single day, you're going to get in shape. It's just math. It's super simple to calculate. It's like there's no guesswork in it. Whereas if you're doing these sort of diets, these shortcut diets, these shortcuts are good for like getting you motivated. Like, okay, like right now I'm going to go on this like 3-week, 3-month new diet, and then, but what you're doing is you're not really changing who you are as a person. If you can change who you are as a person over time, then that's going to become the person that you want, that's going to actually be an executor pretty much. So the real shortcut is just doing everything properly from day one. It's like, okay, where do I want to go? What are the habits and the behaviors that are going to get me there? And then just win every single day. Win every single day, where you're going to be able to go from like, you wake up, from the moment you wake up, you just execute doing hard shit that you don't really want to do, and you're going to strengthen that willpower, you're going to strengthen that discipline, you're going to strengthen all that stuff that pretty much you don't want to do. You're just going to be an executor of doing it. And this is the opposite. Then you can be proud of who you're going to become, but like literally in the moment, you're not really going to enjoy it. And that's something you got to like embrace, how shitty it's going to feel. Embrace, like, oh my God, this fucking sucks. Like when you're running, just like, I do not want to be running right now. When you're lifting weights, like, fuck, this is heavy. And that's going to be something that's going to happen with everything. Like when you're working, you're like, I do not want to be and what you're going to find is like every single thing you do when you're working hard, it all sucks. It's all shit. It's all like a grind. But the thing is, it all passes as well. And if you can deal with this pain, if you can deal with the fact that this sucks in the moment, and then it's going to pass eventually, then soon enough, you're going to become a person who has just like, that'll all pass. And then you're just going to become this person who can just do hard shit. And one of the examples that kind of taught this for me and really kind of put it into my brain that I was able to deal with difficult shit was I went on a 10-day meditation retreat last July 2019. And what happened was I went in, and it's 10 days where you don't talk. Yeah, pretty much that's it. You're just sitting there meditating for like 12 hours a day. You don't have access to your phone. You're not allowed to write anything. You have to literally just sit there and stare at a wall for 10 days, pretty much. And what I noticed out of that whole thing, I never actually got into the point where I was just like sitting there meditating and at complete peace with everything. There was maybe 2 meditation sessions in the fucking 50 that we did that was like that. But overall, it was mostly just me like, okay, this meditation, next one. And then I'm like, day 1, day 2, day 3. And just trying to get through it. And pretty much every single day, I was like, all right, I'm back here again. Like we're closer to the end. And that sucked. It sucked because I never actually got to the point where I reached this like pinnacle of like, all right, I'm at complete peace with the present moment. But what I did do was I noticed that like, even though this was the longest 10 days of my life, and the way they actually do these meditation retreats too, they call it a 10-day meditation retreat, but you have to show up on day 0. You have to show up there at like 4 p.m., something like that. You can't talk from 6 p.m. until like your bedtime is whenever. And then on the 11th day, you actually have to wake up at 4 in the morning and start meditating. And then you're there till like 9 or 11 a.m. or something like that, you know? So it's like, realistically, it's like an 11-day meditation retreat, and it's tough. It's like one of the hardest things that I've ever done in my life, because you're literally like, time is going to move so slow when you're there. And time is when you're sitting there like, holy fuck, like this is never ending. Like this day 1 is so long. And like day 2, you just feel like you're fucking losing your mind, you know? And I had a lot of moments where I was like, oh, okay, I'm going crazy in here. Like this is too much for me. But what happened was I stuck it out. And then I remember just like I remember like day 5, day 6 or something like that. I'm just like, fuck, like I'm in here forever. This is never ending. And then what happened afterwards, like on day 11, I'm driving home and I was like, okay, like it ended. This horrible thing where I'm not allowed to speak to anyone, where I'm just meditating all the time, it ended. Every single pain that we have in our life, it's going to end eventually. So don't complain about it, because complaining isn't going to make it better. And if you're going to survive through it, then there's no point in complaining, right? And if you're not going to survive through it, then there's still no point in complaining, because you're going to die anyway. That's a quote from Marcus Aurelius says that, and I was like, yeah, that's a fair point. We should just never be complaining about anything that we talk about. And this is something that we only need to do less of. We need to complain less. We need to take action more. This is something I'm speaking for myself. Is just like I've realized this over the last couple of days, and I get it. I'm not an expert on this, but I've been doing a lot better recently in terms of just like, okay, just shut the fuck up, just do what you have to do, get it done, move on to the next thing, go task to task to task to task. I've been better at it. And over the last few days of just shutting the fuck up, and I can actually like visually see my thoughts, like, hey, like maybe we should go to the store. Maybe we should go to the gym today, or like maybe we should, like, you know, when it's not scheduled, maybe we need to go for a walk to refresh our brain. There's all these weird things. And I actually had this one today where I was like, I need to go get a haircut. Like if you look at the side here, like it's like I don't really need a haircut. Like, I'm good, you know, but like in my brain, I was like, no, we need to go to a haircut. And since we have this talk at 6 p.m., then that means we have to like leave work at 4 to go to the haircut place, you know? And so I can recognize like, okay, that's a stupid thought in my brain. It's telling me it's haircut time, you know, or it's telling me it's not work time. Anything that we can do to be like, to not do our work, that's like what your brain is kind of developing to do. And this is something that Stephen Pressfield talks about in The War of Art, which is a fantastic book. If you're an artist of any type, you need to go pick up The War of Art. He's like that's one of the best books ever. And I wrote about it. I talked about it in one of my videos of like the top 4 books that need to be read, and like over and over and over again. That's one of them. And what he's talking about in this book is this thing called resistance. And pretty much resistance is this parasite that only wants to fuck you up. So if you have like this higher calling that you're going for, resistance is this little parasite that's going to come up with all these excuses for why you don't need to work today, why you don't need to do what it is that you've committed to doing. And if it wins, then all the better. It's going to keep you down in this. It's kind of like this thing. It's like pulling you down, like kind of like, you know, how crabs, like when they start climbing out of the bucket, if there's one that's going to get free as it's boiling, like they all like pull it down. It's like, no, like you're stuck here with us. That's kind of what resistance is like. It's just always attacking. It's never giving you a break. Anytime you want to do something to elevate yourself, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to start some abdominal workout exercises routine, whether you want to start a diet, whether you want to do a charitable foundation, anything that you want to do that's going to be better for you long term, resistance is going to attack you, and it's going to attack you every single day. And the thing is, we need to recognize that it's going to attack us every single day. And so work ethic is not something that is just like, all right, this person has a work ethic, this person is a strong worker, this is a hard worker here, they have dedication. blah blah blah. That like I would consider myself, like people consider me a disciplined person. They say like, hey Jeff, like, I've seen you do this and da da da. You don't fall off here. You just kind of continuously do the same shit. I could do it better. I could do it better, but like overall, I guess I'm decently disciplined. But the thing is, what we need to keep in mind is every single day we need to win. We need to win every single day, and resistance is going to come after you every single day, telling you like, hey, you're sick, you're not feeling good, you are really busy right now, you don't have to, you don't really have time to work on this painting that you want to do, you know, if you're a painter or whatever it is that that kind of you're striving towards. You're gonna have shit in your brain that's gonna say like, hey, it's good, you don't need to work on it, like that's for another occasion, you know. But it's like, no, every single day we need to get after it, we need to win. And this is advice, my advice to you, this is my advice to myself, is yeah, find the things that you need to do, and then just, there's only a couple actual things that need to get done. There's not really a bunch of big events that need to happen. It's literally just doing a bunch of small things over and over and over and over, and you're just keeping your mind focused on these fucking menial tasks over and over and over again. And what's going to happen, you, over time, it's going to look like you did something impossible, but realistically all you did was you just did the small tasks over and over that you didn't want to do over and over. You just embraced suffering over and over and over. And this is kind of the opposite of what you'll hear from self-help. Is self-help always talks about always talks about like giving yourself a good shot, and like giving yourself your props, and having high self-esteem. But actually, like this self-talk where you call yourself a bitch, it seems to raise your self-esteem a little bit. I noticed like I'm a lot happier when I am working hard, when I actually just execute on the things that I need to execute. I don't get sad really because I'm too busy doing the things I need to do, you know? Whereas if I'm just like brainstorming, like, oh, what's the next thing that's going to unlock this for me? It's like, well, yeah, if I spend time doing that, I just get sad. I get sad, and I don't focus on like what I actually need to be doing, you know, and I don't actually do what I need to do. And when you're disciplined, you're just getting rid of that. You're actually just going to be happy from then on. And this is something that that we can all benefit from. There's something else in there that I want to talk about, but I can't. Yeah. Oh, so yeah. So self-development people, they don't say, they're always saying like, yeah, like give yourself props. There's this one dude who shit. His name is Jeffrey Gitomer. He makes this big book called like the little book of sales, little gold book of sales, little red book of sales, little black book of sales. He's just like some sales dude. He has the worst advice ever. I would say don't ever listen to Jeffrey Gitomer. But one of the things he talks about, he's like, if you close a deal, go celebrate. If you don't close a deal, go celebrate. Like if you do this, like go celebrate. He's pretty much just like trying to build your self-esteem. I guess maybe it makes sense because he's building his self-esteem from zero, or like negative, like people who just like are so down on themselves. He's probably telling them like, hey, don't hate yourself. You're doing good. You're doing all right. And I'm sure, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said like fuck Jeffrey Gitomer, but like from even when I was reading his books, like back in the day when I was like dumb, I was like, yeah, this book sucks. And I'm still kind of dumb, and I'm still saying that book sucks. And but yeah, even back in the day when there's like shit that I would think is deep, I would think is powerful, I was like, yeah, this book is trash. Don't read this book. But the point there with this book is he was just saying like, give yourself props at every moment, pretty much. Like, okay, you had a sales call, it's time to go get Wendy's. You closed the deal, it's time to go get like some new clothes. It's time to do this. And he's like pretty much trying to reinforce that like, okay, you deserve all this nice stuff because you're putting in the work. And it's kind of like, it's sort of like a positive reinforcement. Like, okay, I did something good, give me something good in exchange. You know, it's like, all right, we do something good, we get something good. We do something good, like the proper thing, and then we get something good. And that's a good way of doing it. It's sort of like, yeah, like let's reward ourselves when we do something proper, you know? It kind of works, but you're training yourself like a dog. And I actually think like more effectively is just be like, anytime you're in pain, anytime you're suffering and you're just like, look, this fucking sucks. Like, I love that this fucking sucks, you know? Just switch around to be like, no, pussy, like get through it. Finish what you have to do what you came to do, succeed, Focus on that. Focus on that self-talk where it's like, if you feel any weakness in yourself, you're like, nope, we're not dealing with this. We're actually going to go to the next level. We're going to, like, you want to be weak right now? You want to be weak right now? Too bad. Like, you're going to go even further. You're going to go even further than you thought you could go. And this is something that I've been doing, like when I'm doing like my shoulder press or something like that, doing heavy weight. I'm like, all right, I can only do 4. And then I was like, oh, like I caught that thought. And I'm like, okay, you fucking stupid, you idiot. Now you have to do more. Now you can't just stop at 6. Now you have to go to 10. And it's like, oh fuck, like because I had this weak thought where I thought like, okay, I don't have to, like it's hard, I can let it down. It's like, no. If you have that thought, then it's like, okay, we need to take control of our brain, and we need to push it even further and prove to yourself that you can do more than you thought possible, that you can focus longer than you thought possible, that you can lift more weight, that you run longer. Everything you can do a lot more of than you think you can do. So if you just call yourself a bitch when you're like, oh, I'm tired today, I don't want to do it. And that's something I've had all week. I like wake up, I'm like, fuck, no more snooze in my life. So like every time I wake up, I'm like, fuck, not ready to face the day. It's like, no, get up. And then like, what's the next thing to do? Like meditate is the first task. Like, sit there for 30 minutes in this like one position, and I'm just like, this sucks. But every time I'm like, okay, this sucks. I'm like, all right, stay there. And I was actually I was going to switch it to 20 minutes of meditation a day and then like 10-minute Wim Hof breathing exercise. But then like I went to go, like even the act of me changing it from 30 minutes, the timer from 30 minutes to 20 minutes, I was like, no, that's weakness. We can't do it. So now I do like 30 minutes of meditation, and then I'm doing my Wim Hof. And while I'm doing the Wim Hof, I'm doing my breathing exercises. Wim Hof is like a respiratory, like you're just doing these like, you're doing these like intense breathing, and pretty much like making yourself, you're just, I don't even know the science behind it, but when you're done like 30 breaths, you just hold your breath for as long as you can. And since you've kind of cleared all your carbon dioxide out or something, I don't know the science behind it. I'm dummy. But what's happening is you're actually able to hold your breath for a lot longer than you thought you could, but it's kind of miserable. It's miserable when you're doing it. And what I've been finding myself is like, all right, this is miserable. And I'm like, good. This is good. Embrace that it's miserable. And then what you're doing is every single time you defeat that weak pussy brain of yours, every time you do something that is difficult that you thought you couldn't do, well, then you're winning. You're winning, and you're actually building your self-esteem more, because you're like, all right, I did something I didn't want to do. I did something I didn't think I could do. And then what you're going to do is you're going to just you'll be able to carry yourself stronger. You'll be able to keep that chin up. You'll be able to do all the things that you want to do in your life, because you're not taking a shortcut with it. You're actually just doing the proper things that need to be done. You're just doing it day after day after day. So like inclusion of this is literally just like find the tasks that you need to do in whatever avenues, whatever alleys you're going down, and just do them every single day, and just win the day. And if you keep consistently winning enough days, you're going to win your life, and you're not even going to see where you were. Like it's going to be completely different. And one thing that I think it's Tony Robbins that said this. I noticed I say a lot of like, oh, someone said this, but I don't really know. But this is something where Tony Robbins, I believe, said it. So imagine you have two boats, okay? And these two boats are going parallel to the same place, right? If you were to just change one boat 1 degree, this may be Darren Hardy, it doesn't matter. If you change one of the boats 1 degree, what's going to happen is it's going to go like this, and you're not even going to be able to see any perceptible change for a long time. There is not going to be any change here. You're just going to be able to see them pretty much going at the same time. But what's going to happen is over time, 1%, this chasm is going to get massive. And say they're going from like across the Atlantic Ocean, where they end up is going to be completely different. And if you just do 1% better every single day, then you are going to be at a completely different point of your life than you think you will be. And it's not all going to happen in these big spurts. It's just do 1% better every day in everything that you do. And I have to give props to my boy Virgil for telling me and helping me out with this. And this is some shit that I knew already, but it's some shit that it's very important to kind of relearn. And kind of what he's doing and what he's inspired me to do is just listen to our boy David Goggins every single day. This is someone who has mastered his mind. He does very, very difficult shit. Go find David Goggins online, buy his book. He's great. And I just wanted to check my notes here. David Goggins. Yeah, David Goggins is pretty much the dude to pay attention to. And if you listen to anyone who's successful, they pretty much all go through this. And it's just like, I just work harder than everyone else. Like there's no there's no talent here. You know, this is all just hard work. That's something Conor McGregor says. If you look at Kobe Bryant, he's like, yeah, I just started waking up at 4 a.m. because then if I can get my first workout at like 4:30, I do 2 hours here, and then I do like he's pretty much like, if I can work out more than someone else, then by the time like the summer rolls around, there's no catching up to me. I have just put in more hours. And if you just do the proper things every day, then eventually you're going to become an expert at it over time. Like 5-6 years down the line, you're just going to be an expert, even if it's just like a minuscule amount of stuff. If you just consistently do it over and over and over again, and then if you call yourself a bitch every time you seem to you like feel weakness, anytime you catch weakness within you, just go further. Then go further and prove to yourself that you can go further, and we're going to see a lot of success there. So thank you for that. Dylan says, so your mindset is basically just calling yourself a pussy whenever you're making an excuse. Exactly. You're not going to see it in a self-help book. You're not going to hear that this is like a good thing to do, but honestly, it's been very beneficial. Anytime you like find yourself like, oh, I don't want to do it, I can't do it, just fucking go for it. Just like call yourself a pussy, and you'll see that you'll see if you push yourself further, eventually you'll be like, all right, I'm not a pussy, I'm a champion. And so anyway, that's it for me, guys. I'm going to come back, do this again next week, and hang on, over time and through practice. So Album of Psychology said that over time and through practice, do invasive thoughts decrease in frequency, or perhaps you just get better at managing them? This is something that they talk a lot about in cognitive behavioral therapy. So if you have like this constant negative thought and you catch it when you're saying it, then you switch that. You're like, okay, what evidence do I have for this? And you just like replace it with a positive thought. Eventually, is pretty much just like you're like how water just cuts through a stream, right? It doesn't do it with force. It's just like eventually you're going to put in you're going to properly have like your new thought, and it's going to just replace the old thought. So don't even worry about like replacing it. Just like, just put that in there and just keep putting in the same thought again and again and again. And then eventually that other one will just get out of there. So every time you catch it, every time you see it, just catch it. And then eventually it'll stop going. And then, same with exercise. Every time you actually show up and do exercise, eventually you're going to know that you're like, all right, every time I have this weak thought, I'm fucking like pushing myself harder. You're not going to have weak thoughts anymore. And you're just like, all right, I'm just going to go hard. I'm just going to work harder than everyone else. I'm going to work hard. There's no shortcuts here. Every time you're like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this exercise on my list. It's like, no, like we're doing it. But that's it for me. And I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend, and take care. Be safe and try this out. Let me know what you think.